Thank you. Can you all hear me out there?
Yes.
Good. I want to welcome everybody. Laura,
Yes.
I want to welcome everybody to this December meeting of the Health Kitchen Planning Committee of Manhattan Community Board 4. This is our regular meeting, and we are thrilled to have everybody here tonight. As you may know, as Jesse has explained, we're on a hybrid format. So there will be people who speak from that screen. And there will be the committee here who will speak from the committee. Now, I think you know how we work. We will have introduction of the two items on the agenda. And then the committee will discuss things, and then we'll turn it over to you all. And everybody gets a chance to speak. It's important that we weigh in. It's important also that we get out of this room before midnight. So please think about what you're going to say and make a key point. I'm going to, the committee members that are here are going to introduce themselves so you know who they are. I want to welcome Carmen Matthias and Joshua David, former members of the board who just cannot stay away from the meeting. So welcome back. And I believe the chair of the board has graced us with her appearance. Jessica Che, welcome. And welcome everybody else. We have two items on the agenda tonight. One is about a building or a couple of buildings on 48th Street. It's a very tangled situation. Second item is return over to my co-chair, JD, by the way, the co-chair along with Paul Devlin, who's busy taking notes. The first item is a tangled situation, and we have our chief untangler on the board, Joe Masucci. He's going to explain what the heck is going on. This building Joe knows about the past and the cure. CURE, which was in place back in the old days. So Joe's going to explain on that. So without further ado, our committee members can introduce themselves.
James McDonald.
Leslie Good.
Joe Restucci.
I'm JD Nolan,
Andrew Miller. Paul Devlin.
and I think that's all. I think we have Janine Janine Kennedy, our community associate. It's going to be helping online.
No, there's no committee members.
And Jesse Bodine, who runs the show, is right here. So he's running the show, so whatever he says, goes. So, well, without further ado, Joe, if you would explain the first item.
Sure.
Would be great.
So we have a team here tonight from a 3-building group on West 48th Street. The building in question is 441 West 48th Street. And for the community members, it's one of those specialty complications we deal with, like those demo things or things that don't make sense. So the team will detail this for you, but it is a group place that was acquired by an owner through CRA investment, we need Community Investment Act. It's required to be 51%, 80% AMI affordability. That's good for us. However, after they acquired it, they found that shockingly, that apartment buildings issued a permit in Harrison map in this view. That permit enabled them to alter the building. The alteration was found to be not in compliance with the zoning. To get in compliance, they have to go through a cure for harassment. And they have a lot of tenant issues, and they are coming to us basically to talk about their ability and their voluntary agreement to do it for them. So. So the team, if you could, Jesse, where do you want people to stand?
What?
Where do you want people to be?
That's first things.
Oh, yes, on the eighth. So you introduce yourselves and do the presentation, then we'll entertain some questions. Right, so everyone, this is gonna be, it's a short item, so it's gonna be a little more complicated, so try to keep your voices down, don't be one yourself. Okay, turn it over. Thank you very much.
I'm so proud that that's a great crowd.
No, it's not, but I'm the angle.
Okay, so good evening, I'm Stuart Poston, CFO of, CEO of Hartley Capital Management. We're the lender to the property, and I'm representing also the owner as well, who may or may not be here, remotely. We're Hartley Capital Management, SEC registered, fund manager. We sponsor CRA funds, community reinvestment funds. Our funds are essentially regulated by the OCC, FDIC, and the Federal Reserve Bank. They deem our funds to be public welfare funds for purposes of the Volcker Rule, and they are qualified for Community Investment Act credit for our investors who are largely banks. All of the loans that we make require the owner to maintain 51% of the units at 80% or less of median, and the rents can't exceed 30% of 80%. So they're affordable and they're for affordable tenants. This particular property, at the time we made the loan, was a mixture of market rates, rent control and rent stabilized. One rent control out of 36 units. We actually reduced the rent on one of the units so that we qualify for our loan. So we actually took a market rate unit and we made it cheaper for the person below the legal allowable rent. On April 16th, we made the loan.
What year?
Sorry, 2018. And it's secured by 439, 441, and 443 West 48th Street. An affiliate of Churchill Real Estate Holdings is the owner. As I mentioned, the three properties contain 34 units, 14 market rate, 18 stabilized, and 2 rent control. Churchill's business plan, consistent with the requirements of our loan, were to keep the unit mix the same. We're not in the business of turning affordable units into market units. Soon after we made the loan, Churchill proceeded against the tenant who was not paying rent. The tenant, together with a lawyer who resides in the building, put on a defense that the building was illegal because the prior owner had reconfigured 2 units from 2 units to 4. He had a permit at the time, he never closed out the permit. So even though ordinarily a building this old would not even need a C of O, because of the alteration, the court found it needed a C of O and therefore was illegal. And since then, 8 tenants have not paid any rent, and it's $700,000, and the loan has been in default ever since. Churchill explored all varieties of remedies and couldn't figure out how to get this done. The problem being, the desire was to take the 4 units and put them back to 2. That would be the situation. The problem was that you need a certificate of non-harassment to do that. The DOB was willing to reissue the prior permit. But HPD said, I'm sorry, first they have to get a certificate of non-harassment. The owner and us approached council and said, you're gonna go do this. We said, there's no way, given the past litigation, that it can be done. Don't waste your time. So essentially, what we need to do, what we need from the community board is support for allowing us to do what's called a statutory remedy, which is to take 3 of the units in the center building and restrict them pursuant to a regulatory agreement so that they can never be rented for anything other than 80% or less and at least 30% of age. If we can get,
And that is the cure for harassment.
and that is the cure, although, you know, I wouldn't say anyone really was harassed, it just is an unintended consequence. So that's essentially what we need. If we can get HPD to allow the statutory cure, then we can go back to the DLG, get the permit, reconfigure it, and then have a building where the tenants once again pay it.
So, thank you for that. We take some questions, but essentially you're asking us to write to the HPD and say,
Correct.
okay. You don't mind, we have some questions?
Sure.
Just a comment, for those of you on the committee that aren't familiar with the Community Investment Act, the whole idea of that act is, to ensure that banks have the opportunity to be giving back to the community. And many of the banks that do engage in CRA activity is in real estate, and it's affordable housing specifically. And in this particular case, a bank would not be lending money to someone who would not be ensuring that this is going to be affordable housing. So I just wanted to at least add my knowledge of CRA and that comfort level of knowing that that's the lender, the primary lender is CRA, and knowing that it's on up and up.
Thank you, Doris. And you pushing currently affordable apartments.
Yes, the three to 4 units, absolutely.
And this came up during the course of our conversation about Hudson Hotel and the cure at Massachusetts. So this group approached the board. We took the opportunity during the Hudson Hotel meeting to bring this same thing up, and they said, oh, HPD, let's get back to us. What the result of this is that the owner must deliver debt-free apartments. No, they cannot charge anything, there's nothing that can be ascribed to it. There's a permanent restriction on the deed that these 3 units will be permanently affordable to the 80% of the community market at no cost to the city of New York. That's pretty much the part of it. I think the odd part here is that I have never, it took me a while to understand this, and I understand these things pretty well. That the prior owner created the problem, and the apartment buildings created the problem. And our goal here is to figure out a solution to get these permanent affordable.
So if there's no one else in the committee that has any questions, I make a motion.
Well, before you do that, are there any questions from out there about this situation? So please, if not, Dolores, go ahead.
I move to provide a letter of support for the idea of being able to go ahead and create a quote unquote cure that will allow for the C of O in order for the project to do the city code.
HPD, a letter, HPD.
Letter A.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second on that. All right, all in favor of that motion, please raise your hand. If anybody is opposed to the motion, please raise your hand.
I saw unanimous, is that accurate?
Yes,
I'm sorry.
yes, unanimous.
Unanimous. It seems to be unanimous. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you very much.
That was a long prayer. Thank you for Joe. Thank you for handling that. Handle up situation. Yeah. Now, thank you. Turn it over to my co-chair, Paul Devlin. Yes.
Should we wait for him to leave, let it down with that first issue or?
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So, as you're all aware, we're here for a meeting. This is actually.
Wait.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. As JD pointed out, I'm Paul Devlin, I'm the co-chair of the Heritage and Land Use Committee. Tonight's meeting is actually for us a continuation of last month's meeting. We had the applicant for a rezoning application at the Western Mill Yards come before us. We have multiple questions. And this is really a continuation of that discussion. At full board, I read an overview statement because there's a lot of new faces, so I'm going to read this again, but what is it we're actually doing here tonight? So as a reminder, back in 2009, after the stadium bid failed, Hudson Yards was zoned to a C64, and the Western Mill Yards zoning incorporated a site plan as part of that zoning. That approved plan is for 6 buildings with pedestals ranging in height from 50 feet to 150 feet. On top of which would be a total of 8 towers ranging in height from 350 feet to 950 feet, 7 of which would be residential. The plan is for buildings which would entail around 4.5 million square feet of residential, or approximately 5,700 housing units, about 2 million square feet of commercial, then additional square footage for school, community space, retail, and a little more than 5 acres of open space. The applicant is saying that the economics and financing for building housing isn't viable for the construction of the platform needed to support the new buildings. They are therefore requesting a change to the plan to accommodate a gaming facility by reducing the amount of residential square footage. This would bring in the financing to provide for the development of the remaining open rail yards. The proposed plan is to build 3 buildings. The 3 buildings, we have pedestals of approximately 200 feet, on top of which would be a total of 3 towers ranging in height from 375 feet to 1,100 feet. The proposed plan includes 1.2 million square feet of residential, or approximately 1,500 housing units, about 2 million square feet of commercial, and a 2.7 million square foot resort, including a casino and accessory uses, with a 1,750 room hotel. There's then the additional square footage for school, community space, retail, and approximately 5.5 acres of open space. The issues before us are a ULURP in 2 parts, which includes a zoning text amendment and special permits to alter the 2009 plan, and a remapping of 33rd Street. Plus, we have the draft of the environmental impact statement required for developments of this size. Our role is to state the position on the ULURP and offer guidance on the draft EIS. I want to, because a lot of people are concerned about this, I want to briefly clarify the casino issue. The current 2009 site plan would not accommodate a casino and gaming facility. The requested changes would be needed in order for the casino to fit on the site, but this is not technically the casino application. The casino application will be a separate process conducted by the state. Because the city council recently passed a bill that allows gaming facilities within a C6 zone, which is the zoning for this site, there won't be a community board review for this casino using the ULURP process. It's another complication. There is no guarantee that a casino license will be granted for this site. Therefore, if this change to the 2009 plan is approved and the casino license is not granted, then an alternative under the revised zoning needs to be also reviewed now. The alternative proposed plan keeps the 1 commercial tower in space for school at 11th and 30th, a residential tower at 12th and 30th, but then converts the larger building along 33rd Street with the same 200-foot tall pedestal, but instead of 1 1,100-foot tall tower, it would instead be 3 towers, a 980-foot tall office building, a 545-foot tall hotel, and a 300-foot tall residential tower with approximately 300 units. So again, the actions for us tonight are state a position to change the existing 2009 plan through zoning text amendment, special permits, and a street remapping, and provide comments to the draft EIS. So with that, I'm going to describe a little bit about tonight's process. Last month's meeting, I had asked committee members to submit questions so we can start compiling that. I have gathered a list of 25 questions. I'm going to ask the applicant the questions, answer them yes, no, and different, give us information later, but at least the questions are now on record. We'll then open up for committee members to ask additional questions that may not have come up as part of the conversation, but not on the deliberation of the topics, but just to gather the information. We'll then open up for public comment. At committee level, we don't typically limit time to 2 minutes, which is customary for the board. So committees, we allow more conversation, but I'd ask that if somebody said something that you've already heard, that you can stand up, state your name, where you live, why you're here, and briefly close down. But we don't have a standard practice of restricting time, but we don't want to be here until midnight if that's possible. So I would ask for your respect on that. And then
I'm sorry. We just went.
we went to our phone. So
Give me a moment.
okay, move it down. I went back.
We lost sound.
I'm going to just continue with the process because people on Zoom probably know this as well anyway. A discussion amongst the committee to deliberate on the topic at hand and to formulate a position for this committee to take. This letter will be then voted. that full letter will have to come out with full board at January 6th to meet the ULURP deadline. So this committee will have to take a position tonight on the ULURP special permit, the zoning text amendment, and the street number. All right, any other questions from the committee before we reconnect online?
Just for clarity, the folks that are online, I believe you can hear us at this point, but cannot see us. So it's halfway there. We're gonna continue because you can hear us.
Okay. All right, all right. So I gathered questions from the committee. I'm just going to go through them as I receive them. They may not seem in full order, but they're coming to you as they are. Under the visual impact section of the draft EIS, there was an opinion that the creation of a superation of 7th Avenue to 11th Avenue, notably Penn Station, Hartley Post Office, Moynihan Station, Manhattan West, and Hudson Yards. However, the proposed casino podium is larger than a full city block. Grid of the city, that is, bound the podium footprint by an area no greater than a building lot line as defined by the New York City grid.
No, that's a response.
No. Building and landscape design should be employed to mitigate strong wind countering comfortable pedestrian experience. What steps are being taken for wind mitigation?
A number of steps in the plan, we can articulate in more detail.
You can send us more detail on that.
The corners on the building, we have the podium setback, cell towers, and the towers that provides a level of adjustment to away from towers coming down.
Everyone's got to speak louder, please. Getting high signs from the audience, if you know you guys.
And the landscape design is intended to mitigate that with significant treatment. We'll get to them all. Plus some answers.
Great, thanks. Thanks.
The study does not take into account photo area. Only include the area.
6 and 38, the center socioeconomic, which is different. Would you consider the previous request to study the economic impact farther out than the secret requirements are?
And I think that's our consultant.
Check in. Okay. We have requested a study of on-site generation of renewable energy and the options that could be made available. No study of the on-site generation, A study this despite the observation that it exceeds single requirements.
Yeah, we'll take a look at that.
Take a look at that, okay? The Hudson Tunnel project will occur simultaneously, resulting in street closures. This will be incorporated into future impact analysis. We commit to further study of the impact of the gateway construction site and the timeliness of construction between the two sites.
I think we just have to look at the requirements of the seeker to figure that out.
Bunch of question on the construction. Within the examination of the impact of construction trucks on the area, it's mentioned that the proposed plan generates 2,044 work.
The alternative scenario generates 3,165 trucks. Can you clarify if this is the total number of
workers expected, about 2,000 for the action plan, 3,100 for the alternative? And what is the projected total number of construction jobs for the existing 2009 plan?
So this project creates approximately 35,000 construction jobs, which is quite a large number of constructive jobs. Those numbers seem much lower. So we'll look into how the analysis is. The 35,000 jobs number is the important one.
Yeah, because the study did say specific, because I think it's about truck delivery. See where they're off. Under hazardous waste, was there ever a site study done to determine how many tanks could be below the surface? And if so, how many, any indication what is in those tanks? Get back to me. Thanks. Under emergency and community facilities, what population amount would trigger a detailed analysis of the potential impact of community facilities?
I'm not sure on that
That
one.
trigger point is, it's at least. Should move it.
Community facilities covers several different areas. It covers police, fire, also schools, and childcare. So there's different thresholds for the various analyses.
You wouldn't have to know those trigger points off the top of your head. If you-
Well, yeah, we'll get it.
Okay, thanks. It doesn't seem that the casino and commercial aspect is considered into the factors for doing a preliminary screening in terms of volume of people visiting the neighborhood. What is your projected amount of additional population the casino, the hotel, the commercial spaces bring into that neighborhood, including both workers and visitors, and how do you determine those numbers?
That's pretty technical. We'll get back to you.
Okay. This is a follow-up to that.
That's what was fine with standards. Making open farms.
Yeah.
How specific in medical use facilities and services, not for a detailed analysis of the services that would be important, but the amount of visitors there, how do you come up with that conclusion that it's increased or project? Yeah. So, triggers for the all these products.
That's the. Both outlets are here. And the chapters on, from the GIS on alternatives, based on some of the issues we raised, are there any additional design modifications or advanced technologies that could be implemented to further mitigate the shadow impacts on the Highland and Hudson Yards public square and gardens?
So I think important on the shadows, and this is a point we brought up last time. If you look at a full build out of the 2009 plan as compared to what we have here, the shadows are really not significantly different. So I think that's an important consideration for everybody to pay attention to, because obviously that came out of the analysis as showing an impact, but that's partly because of the methodology there. If you did a full build of the 2009 plan, there's just as much shadow on all these resources as there was previously.
Based on the public comments we've been getting, could the draft GIS provide a more comprehensive and detailed analysis of the anticipated economic and social benefits of the proposed actions and alternative scenarios to the community, including but not limited to enhancement of community benefits and job creation? So we want a little bit more detail in this section.
Sure, we have extensive information on that. It's a powerful economic and community driver.
So the draft GIS does not include an analysis of an alternative development scenario with one hotel tower, with the remaining two proposed designated to be residential. Could you request that the draft GIS, that the final GIS examine this scenario as an alternative, or provide us with an informal assessment for conditions by community members? In other words, instead of one residential, two residential towers.
There's flexibility in that plan. The intent was to show the reasonable worst case, and that's what we did in the evaluation.
If you could put a little more detail, that'd be pretty helpful. We previously requested a study from alternate configuration for West 33rd Street to include lower level access from 12th Avenue to allow trucks queuing on 12th Avenue, access to a loading dock near 11th Avenue, and higher grade access from 11th Avenue for pedestrian bridge doors. The draft GIS did not include an evaluation of the feasibility of this proposal and did not specify the current plan for lower level access and ingress at 12th Avenue with access to the Javits Marshall Yard. Could we consider and include this evaluation in the plan?
So the configuration of the tracks adjacent to the street really precludes any loading access from 33rd Street at a lower level. So that's not a feasible alternative here. We're happy to show you, some section diagrams that illustrate that.
In the chapter on irreversible and irretrievable commitments of resources, the draft GIS notes that the natural and man-made resources used in the proposed project and alternative scenario are irreversible and irretrievable because their reuse for some other purpose would be highly unlikely. Can you provide details of the study and analysis that led to such a conclusion? Alternatively, could the project incorporate the reuse or use of recycled materials?
We'll get back to it.
Thank you.
Natural resources, the draft EIS indicates that the proposed actions will result in development within the 1% annual chance floodplain by search that most of the development will be raised above the base flood elevations. Can you explain what specific measures will be taken to ensure that critical life-saving equipment and mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems are adequately protected from flood?
Yes, so this is an important factor for the site development. We have looked at particularly Long Island Railroad systems and what needs to be located at a higher elevation to ensure, that those systems are protected. That's what has led us to put those in the podium of the large footprint tower on the north side. That takes us all out of the floodplain. So that's one aspect of it. As it relates to the building, obviously, because we're above the platform, that's far enough into the air that will be out of the floodplain for those systems. There are a couple of buildings on the terra firma. We have mitigation strategies for those that are pretty specific. So I would want to do that.
The draft EIS mentions that groundwater recovered during construction dewatering will be treated prior to discharge, and site-specific construction health and safety plans and remedial action plans would be implemented to protect workers from potential contaminants. Can you explain how the effectiveness of these two plans will be monitored and enforced throughout construction?
We'll get back to that.
Okay. Some noise question. The noise mitigation measures proposed in the draft EIS appear insufficient given the extended duration of high noise levels. Further, the draft EIS does not address the incorporation of green and cool roofs in the context of noise attenuation, which are considered the minimum standard in sustainable building, as we had noticed previously. We have requested that the EIS include details on how sustainable building practices such as green and cool roofs be integrated into the noise mitigation strategy. Okay. Like that.
No.
Oh, I thought you said okay, or yeah, we'll do it.
We're gonna get it. We may.
Under mitigation issues, what long-term monitoring and maintenance plans are in place to ensure the effectiveness of the proposed mitigation measures? And specifically, how will the community be informed about the progress and effectiveness of these measures during and after the proposed project?
That's another world class.
The study mentions that construction may require nights and weekends if there are construction delays. Would you expand the study in the noise impact and other factors to accommodate these additional work hours?
We'll talk about that, but this is, we're following standard construction, practice and seeker evaluation for all of it.
But I think the point is that you're following the standard practices, but the construction delays go outside of those practices. Now you're going to be outside of those practices and you don't have a noise mitigation plan for that. So we can take a look. I'll take a look. Thank you. No significant impacts were identified for transit to both streams of parking during construction, although some parking will be impacted during specific construction periods due to construction worker travel. The biggest impact will occur in the third quarters of 2028 and 29 respectively. The Hudson Tunnel project will occur simultaneously, resulting in street closures. Will you commit to incorporating these issues into the studies and final EIS?
Take a look at that. Obviously, transit is key. The site has a lot of transit, so that makes that an easier conversation.
Great, thanks. In the draft EIS, construction traffic impact is studied because it will be less than the traffic impact of the fully operational casino. However, the nature, location, and potential mitigations of construction-related traffic are quite different from the casino traffic, and I think must be studied separately. We do a separate study on construction traffic, even though it doesn't conceive.
I'm not sure they would be meaningfully different, but we'll look at that.
I think it was another question, so another follow-up to that. And I'll jump to that right now. It's about the deliveries and timetables and queuing of trucks and an idling of trucks during the construction phase. That does have an impact. And even though it's traffic-wise less than casino operations, it's still an impact on the community. So the way that deliveries come in to the idle, so that can be looked at in some way. We'll get back to that. Okay. We commit to a construction management task force because you have so much control with noise, traffic, et cetera, become unacceptable during construction. And to deal with the fact that the construction mitigations are a moving target depending on the nature and location of the construction occurring at any given point in the project schedule.
Clearly, that's something that we should look at.
Will you complete the sidewalk expansions prior to other construction stages to allow for pedestrian mitigation to happen first?
I think we just have to look at the logistics and decide what would be there.
And the final question I have is on construction workers, we will be able to provide for e-bike stations, docking stations for those workers who come into the site through alternative methods of transportation.
So we have a robust existing program for that, you know, whether city bike or all the bike routes at Hudson Yards, so I would expect we'd be able to accommodate some of the construction.
Great. That's the list of questions I have from the committee. Transportation committee has met with related, they have a series of questions. Those answers have also been circulated to us. Waterfront Parks is meeting tomorrow night. I think they're coming to that. So Waterfront Parks is going to tackle a whole bunch of the environmental issue questions that are separate from all of this.
I might not ask them that fashion, like, cover, but yes.
Yeah, I knew that we wouldn't get all the answers. I just wanted to get them on record. I mean, they're not sending you this list.
That would be very helpful.
Right.
Thank you.
And did I miss any questions from anybody? No. All right. Then
Timeline, just in terms of a response to this question, I expect you need it right away, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, well, you can go to Waterfront Parks, take their questions, I can, I'll get them to us.
Yeah.
Question. Yeah, and we know Port Authority has got a 10-year project starting soon.
Yes.
So would you advise everybody to leave the town and the next 10 years? Seriously, are you coordinating that construction? I mean, this is your town, when you point out.
We have taken into account the Port Authority project in our EIS, so that has been evaluated as part of it, and including, you know, the timeline and everything, so that's part of the evaluation.
Good luck.
All right, we're gonna open up the public session now. As I said, we don't typically have time constraints on our public comment for these committee meetings, so, but I'm gonna ask a few people to come up and speak. Again, ask people who their name, where they're from, who they're representing, do their presentation. If you've heard somebody say something, please just stand up and say your name and address. I have a list of people that I took at the door. I'm gonna start with those names. Once I get through these names, I'll call other people in the room who want to speak. They can queue up and we'll have you come forward and speak at that point. Then we'll go to Zoom and we'll take all the people online who have their hands up and we'll call on them. And then after public session, we'll deliberate amongst ourselves.
Paul, I missed your sign-up sheet because I'm getting late.
And I will call on people I will call on them after. If they're not on the sign up sheet, anybody who wants to speak, I will call on and they can come forward at that time.
Okay, and they need to stay on the blue X.
And you stand on the blue X so that owl can hear you and see you.
I was gonna say, I think we have to be prepared that at some point, maybe we need to limit their time and people should just preparing their comments.
Yeah, if it starts to run really long, I may ask for a short comment period, so.
Paul, is it really helpful if we indicate when a minute has passed and when 2 minutes has passed? If we just indicate, since you don't want to put limits on it.
Let's tackle that, let's cross that bridge. Yeah,
I get down the bridge further before we.
yeah, let's like, this look, we may be okay. Yes, no, I appreciate that. All right, so to start, I'm gonna ask Patrick Pizzari and his folks to come forward. Patrick, where are you? There you are. No, Alan, thank you. And did you have something?
Yes, I think we have I think it's there. Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Good evening, members of the Clinton Hill Clinton Health Kitchen Land Use Committee, and thank you for allowing me to speak here tonight. My name is Alan Van Capel, and I'm honored to serve as the Executive Director of Friends of the Highline. I come before you as someone who has a deep and abiding love for this community, a community that has in turn shown a remarkable love and devotion for the Highline. The Highline is not just a park or a landmark. It is a testament to what happens when communities come together and they create something extraordinary. It's a place where neighbors meet, where culture thrives, and where the soul of our city shines. It belongs to all of us, and we have a responsibility to protect it, not just for ourselves, but for the generations still to come. Unfortunately, the related companies have made a terrible misjudgment. They have mistaken our community's passion for inclusiveness and understanding
and seem to determine to steamroll through a plan that ignores our voices, our values, and our needs. Let me be clear. The community wants a voice in the future, and yet Related insists on forcing this flawed proposal forward. In response, the Protect the Highline campaign has mobilized with deep support from our neighbors. Our campaign has engaged stakeholders literally from every corner of this community to solicit what Related never did, their input in what should happen on that site, to advance development of the Western Rail Yards in a way that improves upon the 2009 rezoning. We banded together with a shared mission to get the rail yards plan back on track, to ensure that the unique experience of the High Line and the many benefits it brings to our communities is safeguarded. And let me be clear to my brothers and sisters in labor, where I worked for a decade, we are strongly in favor of development on the Western Rail Yards. We strongly believe in development. In the 15 years since we have been in operation, we have not opposed a single building that was developed along the side of the High Line. So when we come here tonight at this community board committee and say that we're opposed to a plan, we hope you take it that we don't oppose plans every day. This is the first time in our history that we've done it. This movement is broad and it's growing in support. We have more than 5,000 individuals that have joined us, and I hold here tonight a stack of more than 3,000 petitions organized within the last 2 weeks, asking this board to reject this proposal and send it back to the drawing board. Public polling also shows opposition to Related's plan. 70% of the people in this community agree that the proposed skyscrapers and casinos at this site would harm the neighboring West Side communities. This community has spoken loud and clear against this plan, and the fact that it disregards the needs and desires of the people who live here. We will not stand by and have our voices ignored. I'm pleased to introduce to you Claire Weiss from WXY, who Friends of the High Line hired to study Related's plans, because we know that everyday New Yorkers who live in this community aren't capable of evaluating necessarily all of the factors that go into this plan. So we were pleased to be able to engage Claire, and she'll present her findings. And these are the petitions that were signed, and I'll bag them for you so you don't have to deal with them individually.
Great.
Claire, if you could just reintroduce yourself.
Good evening. My name is Claire Weiss, architect founder of WXY. Really, I want to thank the Land Use Committee for allowing me to present some of the analysis work that we did with the publicly available information and gleaning what we could. And I want to say that although we were hired by Friends of the High Line to analyze this, I hope that you're considering what I'm presenting in light of our long-standing work in all of New York City on issues around urban design and planning and the expertise our team brings to this. So we really, and I will go to the next slide. This is a special problem. And I'm going to give you a little bit of background, which I have to say, Joe did expertly, but I'm just going to add to this, that really the Western Rail Yards was contemplated as a counterpoint to the Eastern Rail Yards. And it did propose about 3,500 residential units, a school and some commercial space. And it was really going to be that residential kind of anchor. And luckily the High Line went to the south of that residential anchor, so that is why the open space was considered to be in dialogue with the High Line. And their enthusiasm around that semicircular, very large open space. But this plan was really, when I look at my colleagues in city planning and in private practice, this was one of the most extensively negotiated plans ever. You know, it really was seminal. And but there were considerable impacts on the High Line. But it was largely supported in the end by this committee and by the community board. So I want to go over next slide. And I know it's hard to see, but I think you guys have handouts. What the differences are, what we looked at, the 2009 rezoning and the proposed modifications, again, which are complex. But you can really see with the color coding the shift to residential, but there's significant, as already been noted, massing. Now, why is this important? Again, we looked at it from the usual urban design, massing and land use, which I'll go over. But we wanted to understand what are the environmental impacts? What are the walking along the High Line, walking those, what will that make any difference, changing the shape? So we go to the next slide. I also want to say that for you all, and again, there are, as you noted, there are two proposals on the table at the same time. One with this resort casino scenario, and the other one, this mixed use scenario. Ultimately, the way that buildings hit the ground are the same for both. The mixed use scenario adds up to 3 more towers, and there's more residential. But there's another thing to note with that, and I think we'll go to the next slide. That the proposed modifications in the DEIS actually show a larger envelope, both for the podium, which you were, another term was, and for some of the towers, than what is shown in the zoning envelope. And so when we look, and I'll show you some of the studies we did, we actually ran the numbers for 2009 and for the proposed modifications on what is actually being asked for. So the zoning envelopes. Okay, so next slide. Both of that elevation is really important. I think it's really important to, and again, this is the land use committee, so I'm totally comfortable showing you elevations. To the left, 2009, you can see that, as you said, the tallest tower was a little bit over 1,000. The base, reasonably, the base, where I call podium, lower. When you look to the right, for our understanding is the proposed modifications actually allow a tower up to 1,376 feet, not, I think I heard 1,100 earlier. So much taller. The lowest tower, could be 1,100, it might be a bit lower than that. And there's some current probably changes or modifications. But most important to understand, you can't see the blue line, is you go from the edge, that tower that exists there now, and sloping down towards the water. What you're seeing here is towers that are more like a wall. In fact, they go up a bit and then down. Next slide. Well, what that does visually, right, that it reduces connectivity, but I want to look at the open space comparison. And I use the word open space to mean space buildings are not built on. So the 2009 rezoning compared to what is being proposed as modification has 63% more open space, as in space not covered by buildings. And I think that's really important because in that open space, okay, so let me go back. The elevations, the view to the east, as we discussed, when you look at 32nd Street corridor, you are confronted instead of a view corridor by a 200-foot high by 320-foot podium. I think in both cases. So this matters a lot. Okay, now let's go back to this. The changes in that open space do matter a lot to the experience, both of the open space, but of the High Line. I'll show you that in a minute. Views of the cityscape are essential to that experience. When this stretch of the High Line first opened in 2014, Michael Kimmelman of the New York Times wrote, "If the newest last stretch of the High Line doesn't make you fall in love with New York all over again, I really don't know what to say." There, the Hudson on one side and the skyline on the other, 360 degrees of New York unfolds suspended and infinite. So these views of the High Line, when you walk down the High Line, that those views down the streets are critically important. They would not be anymore in this case. I would also say from someone who's been working on Penn Station a lot, that 32nd Street and 31st Street are important visual connections to Penn Station. So that's why I think these view corridors are not just about park space. They really are about the space, the grid, and the city. So I know that we talked a little bit about shadows. We're not going to show that here, but to the south, the view from the High Line reveals this disconnected, dense, isolated landscape, which conflicts with the original plan's emphasis on generous open space flowing around buildings. That we're attempting, you know, again, design was supported to create a dialogue between the High Line and this new open space. The open space adjacent to the proposed resort casino suffers from reduced sunlight. We've seen that in our analysis, and sort of contradicts the promises of lush sunlit gardens. But, you know, again, that's one thing. So our analysis shows that with the open space will only, as contemplated here, will only see an average of 2.3 hours of sun during the day between May and October. Okay, I want to go to the next slide. We conducted a pedestrian wind assessment through another firm. And you can see,
Claire, just again, you said 2.3 hours of sunlight between May and October.
yes, on average. Yes,
On average.
yep,
Okay.
direct sunlight, yes. In the open space. This is not the High Line. High Line
No, the open
is about
space.
8.5. Okay. The,
Oh,
okay. I thought you have this material in front of you. Great, thanks.
When they work. They're excellent in their.
Better than last week.
we're having the second ones from Zoom.
Yeah.
I think we're back.
Okay, great. So I want to go right to the summer wind analysis. Okay, so to the left, again, the 2009, to the right, the proposed, and from our estimation, it is really those massing and open space configuration considerations along with the larger scale of the buildings that are causing the increase of, on the High Line in particular, the increased red, which is considered uncomfortable, amount of uncomfortable for pedestrians to walk in. You can see those effects go all the way down 27th Street, actually, they go beyond, so you can compare the two. There's some numbers at the bottom, but you have that in front of you, so I won't go to that in detail. Now, we go to the next slide. Winter is already uncomfortable, you know, walking around at that level, but even so, in the winter conditions, there are, when you look at them, you're also seeing a more kind of an extreme effect in the winter, especially at the bend and all the way down. I think it's worth noting that the wind analysis presented by the applicant in the DIS studies, it studies a lower density of the 2009 plan. Our analysis studied the full buildup of the 2009 plan, all 6 buildings. The applicant's analysis of the 2009 plan excluded 3 of the buildings, the 2 central residential buildings, as well as the residential building in the southwest corner. In addition, the applicant's analysis assumes mitigation of wind with landscaping and architectural details, which are important if you want to reduce wind effects, that are not guaranteed by the applicant's application. So based on what we see before us, these mitigation effects, which could happen in a wind analysis, are speculative.
Kind of pause and ask a technical question. What's the definition between sitting, walking, uncomfortable? Is there a number on that, or is it just?
We can
What's
say
the
the detail, but basically all of these are pretty consistent in during environmental, which is, it's a combination of kind of amount of wind, temperature, but
volume, all that.
volume, but we do have a lot of detailed backup, which might be helpful.
Can I just ask this in a much simpler question? There's a lot less red and yellow on the 2009 plan
Yes,
than on the current proposal.
absolutely,
And red and yellow means uncomfortable to be in if you're in that park.
exactly.
I just want to put it like, and then for the winter, it's just one big red blob.
Yeah, but even in the 2009, there are better moments, especially around the bend below 30th Street,
Right.
that then are completely gone. So yeah, winter's uncomfortable, but it's a lot better with the 2009 analysis. Now, again, of this, sizes of buildings and heights of things can be mitigated, but there's that mitigation. We try to do apples to apples. That mitigation is not in the proposal right now.
But I step out of my technical understanding and I'm a consumer going to
Okay.
the park. The 2009 plan is not as uncomfortable windy as the current proposal.
Absolutely,
Period. That's it.
Period.
I am a park,
period.
going to park, okay.
Yeah. That was actually my last slide. I don't know, Alan, you want to conclude?
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm gonna move on.
I have a question.
For
Claire, could I ask you?
Claire, can we get a clarifying question?
Absolutely.
Claire, thank you for that. Just a question. Offline. You're talking about affecting the highline, the shadows, the wind. But it also affects off the highline.
Yes,
The public open space.
public open space. And also it does affect 30th Street.
That's
when
what
you
I
get into it. Some things are better on 30th Street, some things are worse. I mean, each thing has an effect.
James,
I have a technical question. Are you using the same definition of open space as the DEIS? Because this one, you say, the DEIS is the net increase of 1.5 acres of open space. But your slides say the decrease.
We're using the definition of open space which is called building coverage. That actually has an effect on what feels like open space. If I take the idea of a street not being public space out of it, then yes, it's probably that same amount of open space, but the configuration is different. And I tell you, as an urban designer, saying streets aren't public space is not actually a correct assumption.
more? Okay,
Anything else?
great, thanks.
Great.
Sally. Next I'm gonna call Sally Greenspan. And following Sally, I'm gonna call on Nadia Cameron, followed by Joshua Davis. Sally?
Hello, everybody. I'm Sally Greenspan. I'm president of the Council of Chelsea Block Association. I represent 79 blocks in Chelsea, 4 tenants associations. That's thousands of people. I'd like to direct my comments to both the committee today and to the many union people and small business owners I heard speak at the full CB4 meeting last Wednesday. Many spoke in support of the new ride plan that includes the super tall commercial office structure. They spoke in terms of many construction.
A little bit louder.
Sally, can hear you.
They spoke in terms of the many construction jobs that will be created. They addressed the new open green space. Both the previously approved 2009 plan that includes 5,700 new units of housing and the new proposed current ride plan that includes only 1,600 units of housing will create thousands of new construction jobs as well as green space. The permanent jobs created with the 2009 plan will be those that provide infrastructure for residential neighborhoods like supermarkets and other retail establishments found in residential communities. So while the current commercial plan may possibly create more permanent jobs when completed, here's the real question. Where will the people employed in those new jobs live? Housing is the challenge that faces all of New York City at this moment in time. Those already employed in this great city cannot find housing. The rationale that the new ride plan will create more jobs simply does not hold water when the number one problem facing the city, indeed much of the country, is housing. There's a lot of backslapping going on, and congratulations among our elected officials on the passage of the City of Yes. It's the height of hypocrisy for our elected officials to praise the new City of Yes legislation for more housing and in the same moment support the construction of new office towers we don't need at the sacrifice of 4,000 housing units. The major point of difference in the two plans seems to be the profit margin for the developer. When will the public good versus the profit differential for one real estate company be the priority? Thank you.
Thanks, Ellen. Nadia Cameron, and then followed by Josh and David, right?
Hi, my name is Anaya Cameron. I am a high school student and I live in Fulton, 18th Street. Actually, tomorrow I'm turning 17. But instead of using today to celebrate with my friends, I've chosen to obviously speak before you to speak about this proposed rezoning that Related has given us. I know that a lot of people talk about the jobs that the casino will create, but honestly, I don't quite understand it. A casino will be built regardless, somewhere in New York City, as we know, and that will create casino jobs wherever it is, Queens, Times Square, or by the Western Rail Yards. Then people talk about the construction jobs that building over the rail yards will provide. But as I understand it, the developer is going to build whether this rezoning is approved or not. Therefore, there will be construction jobs regardless. So my point is, why don't we make sure that the development meets the community's needs? And what are those, you may ask? It's having a beautiful park and more residential health.
Thanks. Calling Josh Ellis for Amber Dakota.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're okay. Yeah.
Good to say your age too.
When's your birthday?
You'll be 17.
Anybody? Younger than 17.
Hi, I'm Joshua David. Some of you know me as the co-founder of the High Line, but I no longer represent the High Line as a staff or board member. I speak tonight as your neighbor, a Chelsea resident for 38 years, and a former community board 4 member. The views I'm expressing are personal, not those of the High Line. The Related Wind proposal is a total disgrace. It reeks of greed and disregard for the well-being of this community. I urge the board and our elected representatives to do all in their power to stop it. I watched this committee and the full board spend countless days and hours hammering out the original rezoning, making carefully considered compromises along the way. This proposal flips the bird at that thoughtful process. Housing units are slashed, skyline and river views are walled off. A carefully planned mixed-use neighborhood is wiped away for a garish Las Vegas-style monstrosity that has no place on Manhattan's west side. If we wanted to live in Las Vegas, we would live in Las Vegas. Why? I thank the board and our elected officials for the care they've put into all major land use proposals during my 38 years in this district. This is the board that negotiated the first ever 197A community-led zoning plan. It is the board that led the planning that made the High Line possible. It is the board that killed the stadium because the stadium was a terrible idea. This idea is just as terrible. It's time to pull the plug on this arrogant, money-grabbing power play. I have complete faith that you will do the right thing as you have done so many times before. Thank you.
After Amber, I'll call on Michelle Spinner. Amber.
Can't believe I have to go after that. I'm the president at Penn South. We're an affordable housing community with approximately 5,000 residents in Chelsea. The majority of our residents are senior citizens. We're in North, a naturally occurring retirement community. So I am here, I wear lots of hats. I'm also here on behalf of the leaders of our senior center. They are very concerned about a low-income senior population being this close to a gambling institution or gambling site. This is a unique population. They've referenced other places in the country where this very vulnerable population is often disproportionately impacted by having access to these facilities. As the center member said to me this morning, when it comes to casinos and seniors, the odds are not in our favor. When the development plan was decided in 2009, it was a compromise that all sides thought they can live with. This was supposed to be more affordable housing and a school. It was supposed to be an anchor in the community. Now we're seeing with this proposal that the residents are going to suffer a greater hardship, loss of light and air, an increase in noise, trucks, and longer wait times for emergency vehicles, ambulances, and the fire department. We have already been impacted by development, large development projects where we can't get ambulances to our community. This is a very real concern for us. So to have this additional development for a transient population, people that are going to be served who are not residents in the community, there's a lot of anger and a lot of frustration. And lastly, as we go through this process, we're really appealing to the community board as a leader here to really talk about what this process is going to look like and make sure that everybody is held accountable to be honest. We've had a lot of problems. We have people who've been hired, they say bi-related in our COPE. I spent the majority of the day today on the phone, a lot of people canvassing, saying that Penn South was owned by related and they didn't need permission to go door to door. So I'm pleased as we go through this, we have to be accountable first and foremost to the residents. I know there's a lot of money at stake, but as we go through this, we have to hold ourselves into a high regard to be considerable of all the people who live here, and we have to do it in a professional manner. It should not disintegrate. We've done this once before. We did it in 2009. We got to a resolution and we did it respectfully. So I'm just appealing to help us do that again.
Thank you, Amber. Michelle Spinner, and after Michelle, calling Katie Savage. Michelle.
Good evening, I'm Michelle Spinner. I'm the Vice President of the London Terrace Tenants Association, which is the Tenants Association for London Terrace Gardens. And while I'm not here in an official capacity for the LTTA, I know I speak for my neighbors when I implore this board to reject, in no uncertain terms, related revised plan for the Western rail yard. Getting it done. Based on what all the other speakers have said, I'll keep it short. That I don't need to repeat all of it. I am in complete agreement. There is one more piece that I just want to reiterate, in addition to the jobs and the housing and all of that, which is the loss of the grid in the new plan, which I actually think is essential. It's essential in terms of making that area a continuous part of the community. And it's also essential for safety. The way it is designed, I think at night we would not feel safe in certain aspects of that. So I throw that in there in the mix as well. And so what I want to say is that if related is unable or unwilling to build according to the 2009 plan, which the community long ago accepted, they should step aside so the city and state can replace them, possibly with a nonprofit developer that could build the housing that we so desperately need. Thank you very much for letting me speak here.
Thank you. Paul and Katie, I'll call on Susan Palmer. Marshall.
There's a question, Rachel.
What safety concern?
Yeah, there was a meeting where,
Michelle, if you would mind just coming back up so people online can hear you, thank you.
this gentleman, I'm sorry, I don't recall the name, where you could ask questions about the pedestal for the casino and how it was going to be one city block. chunk. Why, right? And there was maybe only gonna be one entrance. And I know that walking down a street where I don't see, a lot of entrances where I can, I'm like, it wasn't like this for a long time. It's what it's like in the eighties. And recently, since COVID, all of a sudden I'm kind of noticing again. Oh, where is that pub I can go into? Where is that, what's open at this hour? And so you look at that construction and you have like locked ups, you don't have streets, and there's this one big behemoth. And maybe only one entrance. I'm not gonna take that walk at night, right? So.
Thank you. Katie.
Hi, my name is Katie Savage. I am a member of Board 4, but I'm speaking tonight as a resident of Hell's Kitchen and co-chair of the HK 4954 block of land. Land use is all about finding the best possible use for a parcel of land. The City of Yes for Housing Opportunity was just passed by City Council with the goal of creating more desperately needed housing. It seems incredibly short-sighted and counterintuitive to use this land for anything other than housing, and lots of it. The land is not owned by Related, it belongs to the MTA, and Related pays an annual fee to have the option of development land. If Related cannot make the housing happen, then I urge our city and state officials to find a developer who can and will. Yeah.
Thanks, Katie. After Susan, we'll have Veronica say.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Susan Palmer Marshall, and I'm the secretary for the 300 West 18th and 19th Streets Block Association. I'm also a 35-year resident of Chelsea, and the High Line is practically in my backyard, and I know it and love it and prove it. And so I'm here in support of Alan and the High Line and Friends of the High Line, also Sally Greenspan, and the Council of Chelsea Block Associations, of which I'm also a delegate. And I'm here tonight to say that I agree with Sally that both the original plan from 2009 and this new plan on the table are going to offer jobs and green space. But the point of difference is, and it's been said already, but I'm going to hit the nail on the head again, is the corporate greed. I mean, we're talking about residential spaces and turning that over into casinos and gaming and all these other things. I would suggest here tonight that if the cost differential for the 2009 approved plan is as challenging as Related companies claims, then maybe it's time for the city or the state or both to kick in some dollars so we can ensure that they can build the approved plan with the most abundant housing, which is really our community's #1 goal. Our concern is residential and not commercial. And I just wanted to tie something in. My father-in-law passed away in 2005. His estate is still not settled. In May of next year, it will be 20 years if it's not settled. Similarly, we've been talking about an approved plan for 16 years. Don't you think it's time to settle the estate?
Veronica say, no, all right. Michael Piccarello. Oh, wait, are you Veronica?
Veronica Paxton.
Veronica, I can't read your last name. So, let's know your last name again, please.
I'll introduce myself.
Thank you.
So good evening to all of you and to the board and this, all of you. So my name is Veronica Paxton. I'm a lifelong New Yorker and I'm a proud resident of Hudson Yards. I'm equally proud to live in a related company's property. Over the many years, I've had the pleasure of calling several related properties my home. Starting with the Strathmore on the Upper East Side, the Monterey, since owned by a new owner and later Neiman. Hudson Yards became my home in 2014, when I moved into Related's Abington House. I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge and applaud those of you who have called this neighborhood your home for even longer. When I first moved here in 2014, the neighborhood was still little more than train tracks, and witnessing its remarkable transformation over the years has been a privilege for me. As a personal project, I've also documented much of this revolution through my own, now historic, collection of photographs and time-lapse videos, capturing the neighborhood's extraordinary journey and incredible revolution. Today, I'm here not just as a resident, but as an advocate for Related's plan to complete Hudson Yards. I believe that this plan is not only ambitious, but essential. Based on my own research, I see this proposal delivering significant benefits, boosting New York City's economic development, creating thousands of well-paid jobs through workforce development initiatives, and bringing much needed vitality and some nightlife to the area for residents and visitors alike. I understand and respect that some may have reservations or differing opinions on this plan. However, after reviewing the renderings and animations of Related's proposal, I, as a New Yorker, deeply appreciate the balance it strikes between grit and beauty. The High Line is a testament to this balance, and I'm particularly impressed by Related's proposal to integrate and enhance the High Line's presence. That's what I see in the renderings. The vision presented in these animations represents a marked improvement over what exists today. Moreover, I'm encouraged by Related's commitment to collaboration and inclusivity. I've learned about the thoughtful adjustments that they have made in response to feedback from the High Line and the broader community. This responsiveness aligns with my own personal experiences as a long-standing Related resident. Over the years, I have found Related to be transparent because I've had to deal with them one-on-one, open to feedback, and dedicated to creating thoughtful, community-driven developments. This commitment is just one of the many reasons that I've remained a loyal resident for so many years. Thank you all for allowing me the opportunity to share my perspective as a proud resident of this vibrant neighborhood, and again, as a strong supporter of Related's vision for its future.
Thanks, Veronica. Following Michael, I'm gonna call on Janice Figueroa.
Good evening, members of the board and the community. My name is Michael Picarillo. I'm the area standards manager for the New York City District Council of Carpenters. We have about 18,000 members in the 5 boroughs. About 500 members who actually live in Manhattan. We have about 50 who actually live in the community board. I'm here today to voice my strong support for the development at the Western Rail Yards at the Hudson Yards. This project represents more than just economic growth. It's a commitment to good paying, family sustaining jobs. Related companies have demonstrated their dedication to supporting union labor, ensuring that projects like this provide opportunities for skilled tradespeople like me and my brothers and sisters in the Carpenters Union. These jobs not only contribute to the city's infrastructure, but also to the stability of our local communities. Development at the Western Rail Yards is a win for our city, our economy, and for the working families. I urge the board to support this crucial project, sorry, my speech got wet, and help the New York City moving forward. Thank you.
Question. I have a question. I'm very differential, don't speak to the whole committee, but to the unions.
Yes.
I'm a union position,
Yes.
I'm a long-standing union member myself, not a carpenter, but another union. I do have a question though, and it's been brought up here and also what, does it matter what is built? And does it, it's so, that's what we're kind of struggling with. So a casino's going somewhere,
Of
right?
course, yes.
So you guys are gonna be sent either to Queens, or you're gonna be sent to, Upper East Side, wherever you're gonna be
Yeah,
sent to.
right, so.
Or if it's not a casino, it's gonna be, like they said, 3 other towers that are going up in this, space also.
Yes.
Why is it this, like, is there, or is it just, you're just pro the casino and the build anyway? Because I see you guys are going to other ones as well.
Yeah, of course we are, but when you kind of look at the numbers, when the architect put up there, and you look at the size of it, that casino plan was like 1.5 million square feet more, right? You're talking about almost like another trade center worth of work, at that one tower, so that's, obviously, we kind of focus more on square footage and work hours and how many jobs it's gonna bring, right? And obviously that casino proposal.
Maxing it out.
It is, of course, yes.
So, but like say Queens, because Queens is, huge, I mean, it's like a much, much bigger project.
Right.
You would be obviously pro that as well.
Of course,
Okay.
of course.
Thank you.
Thank you. And following Janice, I'm gonna ask people who have not, I collected these sheets before everybody got in the room. So anybody else who wants to ask questions can queue up behind in the line. So Janice.
I'm James Figueroa. I live at 345 West 13th Street, and I'm a volunteer for the Highline. Excuse me. I know we've heard a lot of passionate speakers on the Highline, so I'm going to keep it short and just say, as a volunteer, I talked to hundreds of people over the last couple of years about their experience on the Highline and what makes it so special and so unique, and what makes it so different from a beautiful planted sidewalk or just other parts in the city. And I believe that the plan that Related has presented will severely compromise the visitor's experience of the Highline, which is irreplaceable. As you said, you can put a casino in Queens, but you can't find a Highline in Queens. It's irreplaceable. So I think that I'm in opposition of this plan, and I think it doesn't honor the Highline, and it will restrict and reduce the visitor's experience.
Thanks.
Residents and folks that have come in to listen in. My name is Elizabeth Velez, and I lead a woman-owned business construction firm based here in Manhattan, and have had the great fortune of working on really major projects, including the past 2 modernizations of Javits right here. As such, I've witnessed firsthand the incredible impact of economic development in all of the communities of New York. Development is great for New York City. Because it creates new jobs, boosts the economy by attracting businesses and talents, revitalizes neighborhoods, improves infrastructure needed here especially, and fosters innovation, all the while contributing to the city's global standing as a major economic and cultural hub. This amazing continued renaissance of this community is a well-conceived idea through striking design complementary to the surrounding area that includes open spaces, essential housing, school, and more. And the incredible economic boom to this area with this project impacts New York City, the surrounding area, New York City, and New York State. It cannot be overstated. New York City is the center of our world, our skyline, both the historic and the new. The to be built, in fact, continues to captivate, innovate, and inspire the world. I urge this planning board to support this next chapter and this investment in this truly iconic and exciting development. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Candida Romero. I live in a neighborhood, and also alumni of the Highlight of the council. Sorry, my English. I'm here to say, I moved here in 1998, and the Highlight wasn't nothing there. Okay, when they start building, I was so happy my children start working there. My oldest is 30 years old and he start working in Highline. So we are highlights our life, our community, okay? We live there, everything is pretty, a lot of people are coming, we welcome them, but also as a resident, we realize something that we can enjoy too. You know what I mean? And I know 2009, probably, 2009 was something that is open for the public, that we can go. I saw in the image that the lady presented before, right? And now the one that is proposing now, is like a gated community. Okay, it's a gated community for who? Not for the neighborhood. It's only for the people that come from outside, right? And also for related company that want to build something for business mostly, but not for the neighborhood. So we want something that the neighborhood, for our family, my grandchildren, I live here for 30 years, right? It's something very pretty, that is everything, the color is very pretty, okay? But we want also to enjoy. We don't want no gated community. We want something open for us. So for me, 2009 project was very pretty, very nice. And I was on the Highland Community Council, it was very nice, but now it's gonna be a gated community. So we encourage related, please, open for us, open for the neighbors, not only for the people that's coming from outside. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Anybody else from the public in the room want to speak? I'm gonna go to speak. Yeah. Jeff, you want to? Do you want to wait till after the Zoom speakers or do you want to? We're gonna go to Zoom now.
I'd like to say something.
Yeah.
That's okay.
You're taking it.
Yes. All right, anyone in the room who would like to speak, please queue up in the aisle in the middle and I will call you as you come forward. All right, come forward, state your name.
Hi, good evening. I'm Mark Roman. I live in 35 Hudson Yards. I was one of the first residents that actually live in the building. It's a related building. I'm a big related fan. They do a fantastic job, not only in their construction, but doing their punch lists. They have a huge community focus. I think they did a fantastic job with Hudson Yards in general. I've got two 10-year-old boys that go to Avenues. I use the Highline every single day. So I don't really understand the wind problem. I feel like there's more wind in the open spaces versus like walking on the Highline toward Avenues, because it's a lot more shielded with the other buildings. But again, it's just my personal feel doing it every day in the morning. And I think I would love to see Related just finish kind of what they did. I think they did a great job, and it would also just kind of provide a nice, I like the park. I saw the renderings. I just wanted to say I'm a big proponent. I think they do a great job on this project.
Thank you, Mark.
I'm the president of Save Chelsea, and I am here speaking on our behalf. What Chelsea and the rest of our city needs is housing. What it does not need or want is a casino or another hotel, nor does it need more useless office towers that will not even be adaptable ultimately for residential use. After much deliberation and negotiation in good faith, a plan was agreed to in 2009 to provide, I believe, 5,700 residential units on the publicly owned land, although now I understand it's MTA land. The land, Western Rail Yards, which is now called Hudson Yards West. We now find that plan abandoned by the developer, who failed to timely move ahead with the project, leaving the site moribund for 15 years, only to come begging for approval of an entirely different plan. All but gone are the promised homes, now down to a measly 1,500, to be replaced with a humongous 700-foot long, 200-foot tall podium. That's roughly 20 stories. That's as tall as London Terrace, topped with office towers and a hotel exponentially taller than the original plan. The term podium conjures a low base foundation. Not so. This one will present a massive looming blank face immediately east of the High Line, creating a barrier of exclusion from the city. Gone are the carefully designed green spaces that allowed for grand views of our magnificent Hudson River and allowed for light and air. That's our treasured High Line Park. Do you wonder why this community feels dissed, slighted, and insulted by this betrayal of our trust? And what does Related want to give us instead of homes and libraries and healthcare facilities and a living community? A casino, please. Much has been made of the construction job opportunities this project will provide. Is it not obvious to whoever, whatever is built, will still provide the same job opportunities and for as ongoing permanent jobs, residential buildings, especially luxury high-rise ones, require large numbers of employees in stable positions with far more job security than casino work. We see in the plan that the school is still there, though sharing office space. Perhaps they will offer a course in how to run a craps table, so the kids can run across the yard and get jobs at the casino. Yeah. Save Chelsea fully supports the High Line's efforts to protect Pop. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
So I don't see the devil on the right. My name is Jeff Blau. I'm the CEO of Related Companies. We presented at the last meeting, but I thought it was incumbent upon myself to respond to some of the issues that have been raised today. First of all, let me say, I've been doing this for 35 years at Related Companies. We have developed over those 35 years on almost every block in this neighborhood. We developed before this neighborhood was zoned for residential. We developed before the High Line was the High Line. In fact, Josh, I'm very disappointed to hear your comments because we were one of the first advocates supporting the High Line and made with the administration and the air rights that were generated by the High Line, which were development air rights, ironically. All that happened. I am a huge fan of the High Line. I think it is one of the most treasured assets in the city. So to say anything other than that, I think is a little bit contradictory. So let me tell you a little bit about this development. First of all, the 2009 plan will not get built. The 2009 plan will not get built. The economics of that plan do not support development. And to remind everybody, the 2009 plan includes 5,700 luxury for sale, $10 million plus apartments. So is everybody here voting for 5,700 luxury $10 million condominiums?
Sure. Who's the rest of the committee?
Okay.
Thank you.
So instead, and also I want to remind everybody, the 2009 plan had built-in flexibility. It had built-in flexibility because we knew that this plan would come 15 years later because we built 15 million square feet on the first part of the High Line. When we came here, there was nothing at the eastern rail yards. We built a city that we should all be very proud of. We attracted companies from around the world to come to Hudson Yards. I leased every square foot of space in this neighborhood. Okay, with my incredible team. I can tell you when I started this, I went to every CEO in New York City to lease space. And you know what they said? Where in the world is Hudson Yards? And why would I ever move my company to the west side of Manhattan? Today, we are the home to some of the nation's largest companies. BlackRock, Meta, Facebook, Time Warner, Wells Fargo, creating thousands and thousands of jobs. Today, the High Line, the Hudson Yards development If somebody is looking for office space in New York, that space that people said, where in the world is the High Line? They don't go anywhere else. They come to Hudson Yards because we have created the best, safest, nicest community in New York City that I and many, many people are very proud of. I love West Chelsea. As I said, we've developed in almost every block in New York City. But we did it in a way that is financially responsible, that integrates with the community. So Alan, let me respond to some of your comments. He threw some prints out over there and said, we didn't talk to anybody, we designed a new plan without community input. We've had 120 community meetings. We have spoken to as many organizations that would speak to us, which is 120, including 10 meetings with the High Line. 10 meetings with the High Line that Alan said never happened. And in fact, we then, based on the High Line's suggestions, modified our plan to make 4 big concessions, which were actually great suggestions that improved the plan. Thank you for your input. That we set back the buildings from the High Line to a much greater setback than the 2009 unbuildable plan. We created an open space that is public open space. I'm not sure who said it was not open to the public. It is 100% open to the public. We took streets and cars out of the park, right? So why anybody wants cars driving through your public park? We thought that didn't make sense, right? And after speaking to 120 different community organizations, we agreed and we removed them. We now have a 5.6 acre public open space, open to the public, landscape, green space, playgrounds, available to the public, contiguous space, not little pocket areas that were open in the 2009 plan, contiguous open space. This space is bigger than Bryant Park. That just so you can put a sense on how big it is. So this development, there were some other comments that I'll come back to, but this development took 6 buildings and moved it to 3 buildings to create public open space. With regard to the High Line and additionally not communicating, we have requested, after making the 4 changes requested by the High Line and agreed to by us, we have requested multiple follow-up meetings with the High Line with no response, including as recently as last week, where we sent a letter, which I think you have a copy of, that we still have not received a response. And so all the comments that are being made by the High Line, we welcome the input and are happy to engage. So Claire did an economic study without ever asking us any questions. She never came to our office to review the plans. So how is it possible that there's an EIS commentary without any questions being asked of us? Doesn't make any sense. So let me go into some other things that were talked about. The shadows. Let me just put this issue to rest. The shadow study,
Jeff, I'm sorry, you did.
the shadow study is identical. There are no difference on shadows on the open space and the High Line as a result of the 2 plans. Now, I will identify what it is that I believe the High Line is commenting on. For EIS purposes, which, as you know, takes into account a build period. Right, we had to use the same build period, meaning when the construction would start and the construction would end for the casino, the gaming resort, versus the non-gaming resort 2009 plan. Okay, we don't believe that the buildings in the middle, the luxury $10 million condominiums, make economic sense. So we said they won't get built until maybe after the build plan, when you do the compare and contrast. So when they did the shadow studies that were commented on here, basically assume half the buildings are not being built in the 2009 plan. At full build, apples to apples, the shadows are identical. Also, in the commentary that Claire put up there, she showed two plans with very different square footage. Let me just say, this plan has the identical square footage. It had the 2009 had flexibility between either 2 and 8 times multiple, FAR multiple for residential. We are still in that band. This UR is solely, there's no change in square footage, there's no change in open space, in fact, there's slightly more. There's no change in allowable uses. There's no change in allowable residential uses. This UR is solely about bulk and height changes resulting from the flexible nature of the zoning that was there before, which we are implementing now. The wind studies. You didn't take into account any of the mitigation measures that you said that would work. That's the suggestion was that there were wind mitigation measures that she acknowledged would work, except that we didn't commit to them, except that nobody asked us. We'd be happy to commit to them. So again, I think if we have more communication, we are happy to work with the community and make this plan as good as it can be. This resort and our partner, we spent an enormous amount of time seeking the best development partner in the world for this resort. And we found Wynn. And why did we pick Wynn? Because you should talk to them and they, I'm sure, will present their plans and how they interact with community and how they do job training and how they do hiring. We built 7,000 apartments in West Chelsea. Half of them are affordable. Half of them are affordable. We are now building another somewhere between 2,000 and 5,000 replacement and new units at Fulton Elliott Chelsea across the street. This development will provide jobs like we did when we opened the first half of Hudson Yards to all residents of the community. Not just offer them jobs, but actually create job training and opportunities for growth. Someone mentioned this land is on MTA, the land is owned by the MTA, that's correct. We have a 99-year lease and we have a right to buy the property. But what they didn't mention is this development, if it goes forward, which the 2009 plan will not, if it goes forward, we have already paid the MTA $1.1 billion to date. If this goes forward, we will pay the MTA an additional $2.7 billion. $2.7 billion in a moment of crisis. We also just go back because I want to just make stated for the record. Someone said there was no affordable housing here. Hudson Yards committed to build 1,100 units of affordable housing on site, in addition to the thousands and thousands of units affordable that we're building in the balance of the community. We have built all but 324 of those 1,100 units. Those 324 remaining units will be built on site. So again, fully compliant with square footage, fully compliant with uses, fully compliant with the affordable housing requirements, public open space and the public school, all available here and will commit to at Hudson Yards. The school is up to the school construction authority, but we will make it available. So no changes. Just a comment. You mentioned that Queens was bigger. It's not. So
is the Queens bigger? He said yes.
So and the only reason I mentioned that is because really this development is one of the largest economic development ever to happen in New York City. The first phase of Hudson Yards was that. The first phase of Hudson Yards created thousands and thousands of jobs and made New York City great. We can't just take the approach of anti-development all the time.
We're not anti-development.
Not this, definitely not this group.
Hold on.
Some of the members, I know not you. You're right, I'm not speaking.
And I've asked you to speak to the committee.
Yes.
Responding
Responding to some of
to the committee.
Okay. And the only last thing I'll say, that someone mentioned that the permanent job would be the same in a residential building. A typical residential building would employ about 35 to 50 people. The resort alone, permanent jobs, and these jobs will come, the majority from the community with job training, 5,000 permanent jobs. This is an opportunity to make a big change for New York City, a lifetime change. I'm asking you, let's not make this Amazon too.
My lord. I have something to say. So,
Thank
Jeff, no questions. No, so let's try to limit it. No, first,
I was still for public members who still.
related is not the devil. And it's never been the devil in our community. How about that for my?
I appreciate that.
Right. The plan is the problem here. And what you just made, your statement in this way, it was an almost Xerox copy of the statement why the West Side Stadium would be built. And the jobs, the effect on the community, biggest economic plan ever in the city. And we've been through this a long time ago, right? The plan is the problem, not development on this site. This is a community that has approved like, I don't know,
I agree.
45, 50 million square feet
I
of
agree.
development. So no NIMBY, no anti-development, we embrace it. In a plan that was agreed to in 2009, with 1,000-foot building or 100 stories, a 92 story building, an 81-story building, and the smallest one is 32 stories. You can never put the pin on us that we're anti-development.
I wasn't saying it to you.
I know, I'm saying though.
I
in
agree
terms of
with
the
you.
broader
I
community.
agree with you.
So we came up with a huge compromise of a lot of density and a lot of height, but all that height stepped down toward the river. Your current plan is the problem, because it is a forest of office towers that are 140 stories, 1,200, 120 stories, and the smallest one is 120 stories. So all the stuff around it, if the casino plan does not get approved in the subsequent action, and you approve this zoning, that's what the community is left with. The other part that I must say to you, I'm one of the few people who sat in that room in 2009, as you know, and negotiated through this. And the big push was residential, connect to the street grid, not like the current Hudson Yards did. The height had to come down toward the river. Public open space surrounded by residential buildings. You call those pocket parks? Those are not pocket parks. Those are acres of space. The idea was you take the residential and you have connect to the open space around it. And it had to be as much separate as possible in the High Line. So those are the things that.
Right, so we have
That was
accomplished a lot of that, right? Separate further from the High Lines than the 2009 plan. I didn't mention, someone else talked about access, so there's not a wall which you wouldn't want to walk past. So we actually took a lot of your comments that you gave, and if you think back about High Line Hudson Yards 1, which it was insular, and to the extent that restaurants or shops don't open to the outside, you go inside to get to them. We turned that on its head. There's virtually no blank wall anywhere on Hudson Yards 2 on the west
You're
side.
required not to have blank walls from the zoning from 2009, that I stated right.
It's much more than that.
Even more, but the point of it is.
So, but the point is, walking alongside, you will never feel that it's not lit, that there's not a place to duck in. It's restaurants and cafes open to the public.
I think we need to.
Yeah, Larry, let's move on, please.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
From the Chelsea Neighbors Coalition. Mr. Blau, you're not the devil, but let me ask you something. Did you read?
Lydia, no, that's not acceptable. Speak to the committee.
Okay,
And limit your
I
comments to a
wanna
topic.
say that I think that there's a lot of confidence, maybe on both sides of the room, certainly on this side of the room, because the people who are going to make decisions at Bueller aren't in the room. And this is a problem that we keep having over and over again. Who is the constituency here? To me, it's my community, our community, this community. And they don't get represented in everything. In 2009, a deal was worked out and the community was involved and they participated. To go against that is definitely, once again, a breaking of the public trust. If the economics aren't there, I'd like to see that somewhere on paper. Have you all seen that?
To a degree, yes.
Okay, so you've seen that on paper, because the rest of us, I think, are struggling to understand why this plan, why now? And the constituency of the community. There are people who will, let's say there are people who will benefit, there are people who have spoken tonight who will benefit. There will be jobs, but there will be jobs with the 2009 plan. There will be things for the community in the 2009 plan. What we're seeing with a decrease of 4,000 housing units is something completely different. And that is why so many people are speaking against this. And that is why we urge you to not go with this plan. That's all.
Thank you. We've got it ready, and move to Zoom. Everyone here is done. We're gonna move to Zoom. People on Zoom, if you want to speak, you can raise your hand and Jesse will migrate you over. You'll have a sense of disconnection for a moment. We're gonna move Luke first. And then David Wender. So Luke, when you're over. Luke, we have you over. If you unmute, you can start now, please.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Luke.
How's everybody? My name is Luke Ostrom, founder of NoHo Hospitality Group. We operate several neighborhood restaurants in Manhattan and Brooklyn. And we are deeply invested in the vitality of the city's dining culture, particularly here in Manhattan. I'm here today in strong support of the Hudson Yards West proposal. This project represents a tremendous opportunity to not only transform the west side of Manhattan, but to energize the entire hospitality and restaurant industry of New York. The development of this scale with its mix of entertainment, retail, hospitality offerings is certain to draw millions of visitors made up of both locals and tourists alike. Our restaurants thrive on this activity. We need this activity. It's how we engage with our neighborhoods. It's how we create community. It's how we create real jobs in perpetuity. Hudson Yards West will prioritize local businesses that benefits established brands like us and also emerging independent operators, which is so important to this city. This type of positive growth ensures New York remains the culinary capital of the world, which I truly hope we can all agree is a huge positive for our city. Hudson Yards West will incorporate community benefits that align quite closely with the values of our hospitality industry in this city. Things like workforce development and training programs, new opportunities for aspiring chefs, managers, restaurant workers who will become the next generation of New York's restaurant professionals. My company, my restaurants, and the entire New York hospitality industry fully supports the development, and we're excited for the opportunities it will deliver to this community. Thank you all.
Thank you, Luke. David Wender, you're over. If you can unmute, please.
Yep. Hi, my name is David Wender. I actually live here at 15 Hudson Yards. I've been living here in Manhattan for over 35 years. I've been in 11 different apartments in 10 different buildings and 6 different neighborhoods over all that time. And 2 of those buildings were related buildings, and all I can say is that, like, from my experience, the 2 related buildings were by far the best managed, built, and maintained compared to any of the others I've personally experienced. I've been working with Related. I've been renting in this building for years. I bought in January of this year, and they've always been very easy to deal with, very fair, and they just get things done. I mean, like I said, I rented 4 years. After those 4 years, and those 4 years were here at Hudson Yards, I didn't even look anywhere else. I just wanted to be here in 15 Hudson Yards, and I would say that they did a great job on Eastern Rail Yards, and they proved themselves here. And I think that I look forward to seeing them do the Western Rail Yards, because if they, they've proven that they can do the job, and it's been a great experience here so far. And again, as the chairman of Related, or the CEO of Related had said, from what I understood, there was affordable housing that is still the same number of affordable housing as before. What they had cut is the number of luxury condos. I don't know what they're expecting to sell them for, whether it's 10 million or whatever. But all I can tell you is that, like, that they haven't sold all the apartments that they have. Their condos are not sold out. Our building still has about 10%, maybe a bit less than 10% sold. sorry, 10% that have not been sold, and 35 is quite a few more. Prices are down 20-25% since they started selling them. I don't think it's corporate greed to say like they don't want to sell more condos. They don't want to develop more condos. So, and just one last thing is I do love the High Line. I use it a lot. My wife uses it a lot. My 2 kids live here. We love it. They've done a great job with it, and I have nothing negative to say about the High Line. I tell people, visitors coming from out of the city, this is one of the things I always say you have to see.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Thank you so much. Omar Ahmed, you're next. If you can unmute, please. Omar, you're up again. You're muted still. Can you hear me?
Yes. Everyone, Elka?
Yeah, let's move on to Elka upstairs.
Hi there, I'm Elka Fears. I'm president of the West 47th 48th Streets Block Association and a 41-year resident of West 47th Street. I remember the community meetings about 15 years ago regarding the area known as the Western Rail Yards. There was a lot of controversy then, as there is now. The community agreed to the development of this site that included affordable housing, a new school, and parkland. The related proposal now diminishes this commitment. Regarding the High Line, I well remember when the late Peter Oblitz campaigned to save the then unattractive, overgrown High Line. Joshua David and Robert Hammond took up the mantle in the late 1990s to save the High Line. They did an extraordinary job. Today, the High Line is loved by all New Yorkers, as well as visitors from around the world. As you've heard before, there are many, many concerns regarding the building of huge structures on the Western Rail Yard as proposed by Related, and the negative impact it would have on the High Line, and indeed the community as a whole. I agree with those concerns. And by the way, wouldn't it be nice if an agreement with a community that was made a number of years ago be honored today? Thank you.
Thank you, Elka. See if Omar's hand is back up. Omar, come back to you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are you, everybody? I'm an owner a business for almost 25 years in the neighborhood, as I say before. And I see, stuff, how it changed since Related came. Before Related came to the Hudson Yard, there was no buildings all over. After, when they came to the first phase, everybody came along with them, 282 Avalon, 300 West 30. So all buildings came after when they stepped ahead to the neighborhood. Before that, there was nobody wanna come to the area, or, spend money to build, and they didn't know how it is. After the Hudson Yard did what they did. And nobody can take the position of Hudson as Related. There is platform under their job. There is a lot, and there is in the neighborhood there is a lot of residents. And as everybody when a lender lend you money, he gotta know he's gotta make his money back. So if he know the lender, if he know, they need something else to change it up in the plan. They know he's not, because of him, he want to do it, though. It's about the lender. Even if you go get a car, they got to know how you can pay, the car every month. That's how it is. So I say yes, and I thank them for the first job, and I thank them for the second job, if God wills. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Christine Gorman is next. Christine?
Hello, my name is Christine Gorman. I'm president of the West 55th Street Block Association. Many of the concerns that were raised, I won't repeat because I agree with them. I just want to highlight something that Joe Restuccia said. The problem is not the company. The problem is not development. The problem is the plan. And I urge the Community Board 4 to reject this plan. And if the 2009 plan, as the related CEO said, will not get built, then perhaps we need to find somebody else. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Wright Harvey is next, right? You can unmute, please.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Wright Harvey. I'm a local gallery owner, and I'm here to speak on behalf of the artist community. What makes a good artist is the ability to envision a better future and to realize that vision. I respectfully ask the community here, everyone who's for the plan and everyone who's opposed, to think about what the Western Yards is today and what it can be. What is the full potential of the Western Yards? I encourage you to dream big. New York City is the best city on the planet, and we got here not by saying no and not by standing still. We got there by dreaming big, taking risks, working hard, and doing the best we possibly can. The only opportunity for artists today in the Western rail yards is spray painting graffiti on subway cars while dodging drug addicts and heroin needles. Can anyone envision a better neighborhood than this? I can. Can you imagine a better company to improve this space other than related companies? I cannot. Look at the transformation of Hudson Yards. As Jeff Blau said, it's one of the best neighborhoods in the city with some of the best amenities for the community. Before related, this neighborhood was a wasteland. In the 20 years I've lived in New York, there was no reason for me or my family to visit. In the Hudson Yards today for artists, there are incredible public arts programs with sculptures, murals, other artworks. This creates opportunities for artists and it beautifies the neighborhood. There are opportunities to work with the developers and to commission artwork by the artists that supports the artist community. The last point I want to make is, as a gallery owner with a gallery right under the High Line, I want to respond to the gentleman from the Friends of the High Line. He said he spoke for the community. Well, I'm part of that community and I vehemently disagree with him. Almost everyone who came to our gallery walked down the High Line, starting at the Hudson Yards. To wrap up, I want to say I strongly support related companies, and this is a no-brainer.
Thank you, Wright. Michael Wall. Michael?
Thank you very much. My name is Michael Walsh, and I'm speaking on behalf of the 100 West 19th and 20th Street Block Association, and I agree with the comments made by Sally Greenspan. Both the original plan and the new plan will provide plenty of jobs. I think for anyone who is impressed or thrilled with the success of the Eastern Rail Yards, we owe that success to the plan that was made for the Western Rail Yards. That was the compact that got it built. So if you like what was built, then you need to support the original plan because that was the deal that was made, and we can't break the deal. Only the original 2009 plan will save the High Line and the Javits Roof Garden. And do we really want to sacrifice these 4,000 units of housing, the High Line and the Javits Center roof, all for the developer's profit margin? I think, like I said, if you like what was there, we have to honor the original deal. And we do not need a casino in our neighborhood. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. I'm going to go next to Patrice. Patrice?
Yes, hello, Patrice McNichol. I've been a resident of New York since 1998. I live at 35 Hudson Yard. I like the comment, like, why do you need to be part of, I'm a friend of the High Line. I love the High Line. I've never been part of any association regarding the High Line. Hudson Yard and the High Lines work together. They reinforce each other. And I also agree with the comment that economics on Hudson Yard have been shitty. They were not like that, but the fact that the related has not been able to sell all the units in my building or 15 Hudson Yard is symptomatic of that. New York City has changed. It's become much more difficult for developer. As a long-term resident of here, it's been sort of depressing to see all the activity in Miami and less activity in New York. And another thing, and I think everybody in this room, a lot of people in this room agree with that. I've maybe gone once on the High Line between 30th Street and 33rd Street. Nobody does, nobody goes, it's empty. It's, all you see is the rail yards. You see those two streets that are incredibly ugly. There's no question this will make the High Line better. This will make it relevant beyond 30th Street. It's logical. So I just want to highlight that. And look, I don't like casinos, but the economics don't work. And they're bigger buildings, but that's also what New York is all about. New York has gone vertical. If we want to be Houston or Dallas, we can stay horizontal. But, we've all lived with it. And part of my view will be obstructed, but your view is less obstructed with 3 buildings than it is with less building than it is with more. And by the way, there's nothing in New York, in between each street, each park, next to a school, in the Upper West Side, in any neighborhood, I would bet you rarely have sunlight for more than 2.5 hours a day. So that argument is a little bit ludicrous. Anyway, that's it. Thank you very much for taking the time, guys. Really appreciate your efforts.
Julie Hatter, Julie.
Hi, okay, I'm doing my video. Hello, I got to turn this on. There we go. Hi. So I spoke last meeting. I am a volunteer at the High Line, and I also am a member of the 22nd Street Block Association. And I live on 23rd Street and 10th, overlooking the High Line. And what's gotten me so confused is I feel like we're in time travel. We had a plan in 2009, and I've asked so many people, why did this not happen? And tonight I heard Related say economic feasibility. Is that what I heard? Does that mean that they couldn't make enough money developing that plan? I'm not sure what that means. So if you can explain that to me, I'd appreciate it, because that's a question I keep asking myself. And by the way, Related, I take umbrage with your comments about Alan Van Capel and Joshua David. And it almost sounds like you developed the neighborhood. You were the High Line before the High Line, which is not really accurate. And by the way, this plan with these $10 million apartments, if you were such a great developer, why couldn't you sell them? And
hold on, Julie, I'm going to interrupt.
I want to ask a question.
Please, I've asked everybody address the committee and
Okay,
not the other speakers, please. Thank you.
Plan. I wasn't there in 2009, so I don't know exactly. I haven't read the entire plan. My recollection was, and this comes back to Related, because I'm just wondering why in these 15 years it hasn't been, nothing's gotten done. And all of a sudden, when Wynn comes in and they want to get a casino, which I'm sure will give them a lot of money to do what they want to do, that all of a sudden they can do it. That's what I don't understand. If somebody can explain that, I'd appreciate it. Also, are they going to be able to fill those buildings, those office towers? Because my recollection was they had to cut leases to allow, they had to give long-term lower leases because they couldn't fill the buildings. We don't need any more office buildings in the area. We need residential housing. We don't need a casino. We don't need Las Vegas in New York City. I'm sorry if
Thank you, Julie.
That's my feeling.
Next is Annette Crane. Annette, you can unmute, please. And I'm sorry to interrupt you, Annette. We've moved all Zoom speakers over this. Whoever's moved over to the panel will be done up to 4 more speakers. Thank you. All right, Annette, go ahead. Thank you.
That's okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Annette Crane. I'm a resident and owner at 15 Hudson Yards, and I lived here since 2019 when Hudson Yards first opened. I bought my apartment before the building was completed, so I'm familiar with the original plans, including how Related mentioned my views would eventually be blocked. Right now, I'm not fully for or against the casino project because I'm still learning new details about it every day. Our building is home to a diverse group of people with a variety of values and perspective on this project, but I'm not here to speak on anyone's behalf. I've done my best to stay fair by attending meetings with both sides, Related and High Line, to hear what each has to say. No matter how people feel about Related's casino proposal, I think it is very important to talk about the meetings some of us from 15 Hudson Yards had with the Highline in October. In those meetings, they raised the concern about tall buildings blocking sunlight and wind tunnels that could make it tough for plants to thrive, less green space, a building podium that blocks the view of the Hudson River from the Highline. The Highline made it very clear that they aren't taking a stance on the casino. They're focused on protecting the plants and the greenery in the city. In November, Related held a meeting with the Hudson Yards community. I've learned that they've made big changes to the Phase 2 plans based on inputs from the Highline. These changes include allowing more sunlight to reach our apartments in the new plans, including more greeneries and having a view of the grass area between a resort and the commercial building. Having a view of the grass area between the resort and the commercial building from our apartments. Adjusting the podium so it doesn't block the view of the Hudson River from the Highline. And also because of 15 Hudson Yards residents' suggestion, Related also added a dog park to Phase 2. However, the Highline never mentioned their discussions with Related or these changes made by Related during our October meeting. On top of that, I felt blindsided when the Highline said they had no position on a casino, especially since the Diller family has a member on the board of the Highline and also owns a large stake in MGM. That seems like a clear conflict of interest. In my opinion, it appears that the Highline is leveraging the greenery and reduction in housing to hinder Related from obtaining a casino license, possibly because they prefer MGM to secure the Yonkers license instead. I know that this casino debate can be a heated topic, but I believe it's crucial for Hudson Yards residents who care deeply about this neighborhood to have all the accurate information they need to make informed decisions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Annette. Dan Kluger, Dan, you can unmute, please.
Hi, my name is Dan Kluger. I'm a chef owner of Grey Wind Restaurant on 35th Street. Having grown up in New York, not far from Hudson Yards, it's really incredible to see the progress over the past 15, 20 years, and certainly now owning a business there. It's so important for me to see Hudson Yards area continue to grow. Our restaurant is typically busy during the week when Hudson Yards is busier, but not as busy on the weekends. So the idea of a casino bringing more people to that area could greatly impact our restaurant. Being in a business that is still reeling from the effects of COVID, the idea of anything that can help us is incredibly impactful. Seeing the plans and knowing that Related and Wynn have been incredibly thoughtful in terms of the programming of the casino and not having things like a theater in there in order to support the other businesses in the area and to support Broadway is incredibly important. Yes, there'll be restaurants there, but they're not packing it in the way they are in Vegas. They're doing more to support the local businesses. So in general, I think I look at this as an incredible way to support the Hudson Yards area and support the Hudson Yards businesses and really anything within that area. I fully support the idea of this casino and I'm excited to see what Related and Wynn do together. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Phyllis Wiseman, Phyllis.
Good evening. I live on West 23rd Street, and I'm an officer of the Council of Chelsea Block Associations and a member of the Neighbors of 300 West 21st, 22nd, 23rd Street Block Association. I agree with the comments that Sally Greenspan, Susan Marshall, and Michael Walsh have said. My primary concern is that Chelsea needs more affordable housing. And the head of Wynn, I congratulate him because he said that in West Chelsea, half of the 7,000 units that he's built have been affordable. My concern is the number of affordable housing he plans to build going forward. He mentioned 1,100 and 324. That's a little over 1,400 affordable units. My concern is that the proportion of affordable units to luxury units is very low. And we really need more affordable housing, not more office space. So I really do oppose this new plan. Thank you.
You can speak now if you want.
Hello.
Yeah, do you hear us, Barbara? You can speak.
Yeah, now I can hear you. Sorry. My name is Barbara Connect. I'm an architect and a planner. Approximately 25 years of my work was developing housing and other urban projects in New York City. And I've lived on 55th Street since 1988. I had prepared some remarks, but they included many of the points that others have made. So instead of repeating those remarks, I will simply repeat, as Christine Gorman did, Joe Restuccia's synthesis. The problem is not the developer. The problem is not development. The problem is the details of this plan, which have been described in detail. With that, I will close and apparently close out the remarks of this part of the hearing by simply adding my voice urging CB4 to reject this proposal.
So, I think that yep.
So for the EIS comments, are you proposing to structure that are questions that we pose along with the comments that we've already made as a committee, whether or not we have answers to some of those questions?
I think that, and comments, comments, questions, I think that we have to, what I'd like to do is take the framework of the way the committee position is, and then incorporate the commentary and questions into that framework. There is some outstanding information that's still to come in. You've heard the questions that were asked tonight. Transportation questions were asked. We received a copy of that. Waterfront Parks is doing their meeting tomorrow with them to go through those issues. I'll take all of that and consolidate it into one document. But the framework will be what direction we want the conversation to go. And so does that answer your question?
Yeah,
okay.
To clarify, this letter is both our response to the EULA and to the EIS?
And the map.
The entire project.
The entire thing, draft EIS.
So we're gonna, because we have to take a stance on the EULA, we're gonna do that and also write questions and feedback for the EIS.
Correct.
Okay.
So can I just say like what I said?
I want a process point of view. So you'll draft that between now and the January meeting. You'll send out all those comments to all of us.
Correct.
Respond back. We have some time to do this, right?
Right. Well,
I'm saying concrete.
Kind of a fun Christmas holiday season on this committee. Yes, everything that comes through, I will circulate to the full committee. And the draft of the letters, we're hoping to get earlier than Christmas so that we can have time to comment. And then, because this all has to be done for full board on January 6th.
Yeah.
So this next couple of weeks is going to be kind of a sausage process, input from related, responses to this, other committee responses, and incorporate all of that. And I will circulate it as we go through the process. So to address, thank you, to address the kind of the issue at hand is the EULA process. You know, I closed last month's meeting, with sort of a commentary that from perspective of land use and years of dealing with land use issues, this looks like a missed opportunity to us for this community, right? We have a 2009 plan in place, and the developer is saying to us they can't afford to do that, and the financing isn't available for that. We'll dig into that in more detail, but then their proposal is to finance it through a casino that is not licensed for this site and may never be licensed for this site. And so, as Joe pointed out, we are looking at changing zoning that will result in the new zoning on the parcel with or without the casino. So I want to have that framework in our minds as we go forward to think about what that means to us. But Joe.
So I just want to restate.
I'm shocked.
Shocked. First, I want to be a 45-year resident of a wasteland. I really appreciated that. No, I'm serious.
Yeah.
Because I will tell you, I sat in the first meeting about Hudson Yards in a community room at Holland Hotel, in which then Deputy Mayor Van Dotterup told me that only 82 people lived west of 8th Avenue, between 30 and 42nd, right? Because again, people come to our community not understanding our community. So I want to couch this by saying, it's not a referendum on related. And it's not about related at all. They do incredible work. We may like or not like certain things, but they're a factor and they're part of our stakeholders in our community. That's it. It is not a referendum on development. And I'm going to ask the related team and everyone that you bring to meetings to stop saying that, because it's just not true. No one in our district, at least, has represented 2 million developers coming here. We are tough, we're back and forth, but we don't say don't develop anything, ever. That's not how we work. The last piece is, it's not a personal discussion between Jeff Blau, Joshua David, or Ellen McDonald. And I'm going to ask her, going forward, we have a discussion, take all that out of it, right? This is about a plan and a rezoning put in place to accomplish that. Period. I am going to shockingly support related on something here. They came to a brief community board leadership on the issue why this cannot be built at this juncture. They presented what the construction cost of the platform was back in 2009 versus today. They talked about the increased requirements of the MTA, along on railroad tracks, how to bring down columns and clearance, a lot of very technical things. So it's all very real. They made it clear that the condos that they proposed to finance this could not go today at those rates. And in fact, they did mention that some of the condos, just are not fully sold out. All that's very real, right? But the site plan, as part of the 2009 approval, was small building footprints, which only allow residential buildings. That's what the whole idea was, surrounded by open open space. And even with the flexibility that Jeff brought up many times, it didn't give the site plan was still there. That site plan never went away. So I want to get that off the table for discussion, right? It never went away. Therefore, it's predominantly a residential plan and it steps down toward the river. If related, simply cannot do it because the construction costs and all these things have mounted up to make that version of the plan impossible, right? Then it's incumbent upon our community board to take the long view, not just the moment that how do we get related to money to build this thing, right? And they, by the way, you're opportunistic. I feel fine about that. Grab a casino and get something to happen, that makes perfect sense. But it doesn't build a community over decades at all. You know, approved in 2009, how many years have we in so far? Not built. The first plans necessarily don't succeed, new plans will. I want to say, honestly, we have a huge opportunity. And Paul mentioned this in our last meeting. We have 3 blocks of land owned by the MTA that related has a 99-year lease on. I'm pretty sure there's ins and outs to get out of that. And we have a block to the north owned by the Javits Center between 33rd and 34th, 11th to 12th. Where in the city of New York do we have 4 contiguous blocks that could be redeveloped and have a major impact on our city for the next 60 or 70 or 80 years, not just the next 10 or 15 years, and have a major economic opportunity? And the example I want to use is Battery Park City. Battery Park City was landfill created from the World Trade Center, and no one knew what to do with this whole mess at landfill. And the Battery Park City Authority was created and brought in infrastructure, roads, and RFP'd out, building after building. And groups like Related, they figured out how to be part of this process of development. Why are we saying we should keep the general ideas, 2009 plan, which is residential, open space, serve the Heinlein, and all these things that make sense. But, and get the streets back. That was a big thing, the street. I'm sorry, I really disagree. The streets was a major issue that both city planning and our community fought for, and that all the development to the neighborhood. I think we should, for the first time ever in my short history on the board, say that we would not say no unless, we would say no. And that's a huge step for us. We never knew this at all. Because the plan is the problem, not the developer, not the location. And the use is a short term.
You're saying flat out no.
I say for the first time ever, say no and ask for the following, that Related and our community board and our elected officials go to the city and state, and you see here that the cost of building this platform makes it impossible for them to do what was planned back in 2009. Let's work with them as opposed to the casino is the magic bullet. The stadium is the magic bullet. Get the financing and the money for this platform, but let's add in this block to the north and figure this out. 4 blocks, 800 by, it's amazing what that happen. And it may take longer, those construction jobs are still gonna be there because building this platform is one big, heavy duty job itself. We're in a whole different environment with the federal government. State has stepped up. The state has stepped up on 2 things. One, they now are interested in housing. In state sites in our district, Bayview, former Bayview Prison, 20th and 11th, put out an RFP to be affordable housing. Site K, a big block front on Crossland Javits between 30th and 36th streets. It's been put out for an RFP. It should be awarded for housing, both market rate and affordable, end of this year. That's in the State Empire State Development Corporation, former board district. So, and they're now looking at the separate parking lot, both out in the 45th, 46th, and putting this out for both affordable and market rate housing. The push is housing. They didn't have a program. Why don't we ask the state to step up here on a site that is controlled by one state agency and 2 public authorities and say, let's figure out how to do this. Never would say, I would say this before ever, but I think that's where we need to be as a community. I think we're related to be a developer. They spend a shitload of money on this one, but long term, it's a much bigger yield for a major project. That's right.
I see Dolores and Dolores and JD.
The one word that both you and Joe used was opportunity. And I think that, Joe, how you just framed this, I don't think you thought about this before we've been in the ULURP process. Usually in the ULURP process, well ahead of leading up to the vote, you've had an opportunity to go ahead and really negotiate. That's what happened, I'm sure, the original time was 2009, where leading up to it, all of these things are working out. Right now, we have what sounds like a big split in the community in terms of which side they're on, and that's the wrong move. Both of you mentioned opportunity. We need to debate this. We need to be asking the question of what is the current need now and in the future for not only our neighborhood but the city. And I think everyone that was here was decided that all of it is housing. And so if that is a point of agreement, that is a starting point to think of the opportunity. So Joe, I like how you frame that, because I don't think that normally in our newer process that we start thinking in the moment about what we should be doing. And I also recognize that that is a huge thing coming out of your mouth to say no outright, because you've always said our role is to find a compromise. For an opportunity, I think that is really highlighting how important it is to not rush, even though the 2009 to 2024 is not a rush. The rush is the moment now to say we need to be on the side. Instead, we need to come up with what's the common issue, it's housing and cost. How do we get there? It's by having the conversation over it.
JD then said for next.
I think this is quite wonderful to think about. We are a land use committee. We are supposed to decide what's the best use for land in our community and what's the best for the city in the long run. So I think we should think about it. I agree.
Sanford.
Yeah, I mainly just want to echo the thoughts about housing. We talk about it in pretty much every full board meeting, pretty much every meeting of this committee. I think, yeah, almost universal agreement is probably like the most important issue neighborhood is facing. Certainly the one that this committee and board is best positioned to address. And yeah, I also like, I do feel kind of think it's just a full no, it's a big step, but the like loss of 4,000 units of housing, like there was a decision, the best thing like for this best use for this land is as primarily residential. And I think we still agree with that completely. Maybe there needs some changes to parameters and how it actually gets built, like economically feasible, but we don't, our like the board's opinion, and I think the neighbor's opinion has not changed that residential remains the best use of that land. And that would push me to be like, yeah, like losing 4,000 units of housing that could have been built. Yeah, it puts me in the direction of just a no.
And I wanted to know, I didn't know as well that they are capped. The fact that that has been lifted, this could be a much denser development. Managed height everything but denser than this currently zone. And the state could just do that because they own the land. The MTA, they could override it.
I'm gonna be devil's advocate here. I'm not antagonistic.
You're gonna have to speak up.
Sorry, I'm not antagonistic towards the plan that Related has put out necessarily. I agree with what you're saying, the opportunity but is that pie in the sky? Like, is there the political will to do that? Because you need strong political will to say, okay, that's a great plan, which it is. It's great. I mean, to redevelop that, to do mixed residential, commercial, whatever it is, yeah. Because you're gonna have some strong people on the other side that make these decisions to say, okay, we're gonna scrap this and go forward. That's just a question I'm putting out there. That's one thing. I have two more points, and one is actually to the union, and because I'm very deferential, as I said, so I take what they say very seriously. But I had a question: is would not having a casino here be better for the union? Because then you're going to build in two places. You're going to have a casino somewhere, and then this is going to be developed. So you're actually going to get more bang for the buck if the casino's not here, because you're going to build here on whatever development is here, and it's going to be big in Hudson Yards. And then you're also going to win wherever the casino is there. So I just wanted to throw out there, but I'm sure you thought this too. But anyway, the other thing is, maybe it's related, and I've been following the other, and I think I said this last meeting, I've been following some of the other bids and talks and the other. I'm just so, I think it's very surprising that or it's known that a casino is a hard sell, whatever neighborhood it's gonna be, right? It has nothing to do with this neighborhood, but it's gonna be a hard sell, and you have to get around a few obstacles. The fact that the plan that's before us didn't come and say, listen, this is what we're trying to do. We need the economics here. We're trying to get the casino here. We'll throw in more housing, we'll do some housing over here. We'll give you this, we understand housing is big here, but to come in and say, the economics don't work, we want a casino, plus we're gonna boot all the housing out of this plan. It just, that blew my mind as far as just how to look at it, just a strategy. I think there would have been more maybe support if we said, listen, we want a casino here because the economics don't work and this is why. But you know what? We understand it's a tough sell. We're going to give you some residential, some affordability, maybe a little more, and we'll work out the economics. So anyway, I don't know if that makes me clear on where I'm landing, but I understand what you're going on.
And
Rachel, James, Kevin, any commentary? Sanford? No commentary?
Oh, yeah, I think we also have to keep in mind that like there's a decent possibility. I don't know exactly how the casino
What the odds
license
are?
process works and like what the odds are, and maybe no one knows, but well. We can all look into the crystal ball, but like there is a possibility that we have to plan for that this is just a commercial rezoning to make it into primarily office and hotel space, which like is definitely not what we want. And it's, yeah, as I was saying, frustrating to see like maybe there does need to be some changes to the plan to make it economically viable, but a lower is more residential, at least, would be much more compelling. I would, yeah.
Great. Couple of my own thoughts on this. Thank you for mentioning the FAR increase. That's right. This has the opportunity to build the, the concept of 2009 is more residential and a focus on residential. We might be able to come up with a solution that's a different mix. Maybe there's a little bit more commercial, but with the increase in FAR residential, we can have more residential and we can have a higher density with a better mix of things to it. I think that's reasonable. Maybe we don't have 5,700 housing units, maybe we have 4,000 housing units. That's more than 1,500. We can work through a strategy on that. Joe, your idea of going and combining properties would say have 4 city blocks in Midtown Manhattan. Someone wants to build there, I think. So let's talk about how we can make that happen as opposed to not necessarily rejecting, not the concept of just rejecting this, but the concept of what can happen at this site. And let's come up with some strategies. Because Joe, you were part of the 2009 plan with the creative financing that had a TEA with KB5 visas, AV this, and then the bond for the infrastructure. Like we can work towards a solution of financing if we put our heads together.
I mean, one of the basic things is the platform is the most expensive part of this. And why can't the goddamn state step up with related and their incredible financial acumen and float a bond, build a whole platform? But in exchange, it's gotta be much more affordability.
What exchange for more affordability? That's a negotiation that occurred. And as you point out, the state doing a GPP on the 4 blocks can make a lot.
Move it a lot faster.
Move it through the system faster, so the construction jobs come, so the building gets built, so it's not a wasteland. And I think that someone asked a question about political will, and I think that given that the city of Guest housing opportunity just, went through because the demand for housing is there politically. So let's tap into the current political will to promote housing, to get housing on this parcel.
And how many community boards say, let's do further upzoning on parcels? And let's not go through ULURP and do it through a general project plan. There's about 0, I would say, that do that.
So the concept of a deny, which I don't think I've ever written a deny letter, as the chair of this committee, so it's gonna be a little bit odd. But I think that for me, the way I would want to think about writing this is the context of the opportunity and have that be the case. Incorporate the BIS statements as part of a movement towards denial, like as opposed to deny unless you change these things, but argue that these deficiencies in this proposal are part of the reason why we see a denial. Because again, if repeating, it's not the developer, it's the plan. And so how do we work through that? How do we navigate that?
So follow-up question, I know that Joe proposed that, but I didn't quite hear a motion.
There was not a motion.
Okay.
I want to put it out for.
I wanted to
But also want to feel like, how do people feel about that before we push forward a motion and so on. So I'm happy to entertain a motion if somebody would like to make one. Make a motion. To say what?
Motion to deny. For all the reasons that we just stated.
But all clear.
Who seconded the? JD seconded.
It must be done in context, though. I think Paul is dead right. We can't just say deny. It's in this huge context that we talked about.
Right?
No.
No, it's, yeah, the deny because we're missing an opportunity.
Right.
Can we be clear in that, I think the brevity of the motion, understand it's a blanket deny? first of all, let's recognize that, everyone who spoke up today and, kudos related for actually listening and actually addressing many of the things important today, but also thank you to every one of the public members who came and spent all these, 3 hours it's been voicing all the concerns. And I think we as a community board have to do our job in making sure all of those main points are captured. And to the extent that there's any sense of fatigue around, oh, well, this was the plan from 2009, and we went through this extensive stuff with DIS and back and forth and whatever. We have to understand that our needs as a community changes over time, but there's also what we hear me is a constant that has been, what should I say, exacerbated through those decades, which is housing, things like that. So I think a letter representing the majority of the community board spirit is fine, but please let's be clear that that is the context in which we are saying that.
That's excellent. Thank you, Richard. Yeah, great. Right, so we have the motion to deny has been made by Joe and was seconded by.
Oh, sorry. No, Ted.
Ted made the motion. You seconded. And who seconded it? JD. JD cannot second as co-chair. Second. Joe, thank you. Discussion on the motion.
Yeah. So the letter will have to be denied, so you're gonna write that out, why, obviously. Why, this, all of the things that you just said are gonna be in this letter.
But I go further, I think let's go around to the committee like at least 4 or 5 times. If this is a huge.
No, I'm talking about the reasoning.
Right.
That's not the language.
So my understanding is that the primary reason is that this is a missed opportunity. And that we are highlighting that housing has been, sorry, my teeth are chattering. This is a nonprofit building.
Joe, what's wrong with the hate narrative?
Oh, it's a nonprofit building, friend, so we want to solve this problem with involving donations to the house. But the primary focus has always been housing, and because we recognize the change in the plan based on the economics as well as other opportunities that have presented itself to the developer to not meet the needs that we consistently spoke about as you said.
I'm just concerned with the denial, but hold on.
The problem is that this is counting on a casino.
Yeah,
That is not actually existing, and to say that we don't have the money, there has to be another creative way to come up with a way to make money if it's not a casino.
The silence fell over the fire.
We have a motion and a second.
I'll call the question, all those in favor of the motion. Anybody opposed to the motion? Anybody abstaining from the motion? Anybody present not eligible?
So I count 9 in favor and 1 being a.
Right, very good. All right, maybe I'll work it out. Done? Motion to adjourn. I'm accepting. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.